The people who built their strategies around the version of you that existed before your transformation are experiencing something they were completely unprepared for. The discovery that every tool they sharpened against your former self no longer makes contact with anything. The triggers they mapped no longer produce reactions. The provocations they engineered no longer find the emotional entry points they once exploited with precision. The patterns they relied on to predict and manage your behavior have stopped generating accurate results entirely. What they are confronting is not a slightly improved version of who you were. It is a fundamentally different architecture of person, and the strategies designed for your previous version are not just less effective against your new one, they are completely obsolete. In the complete archive of spiritual and psychological history, the specific transformation you have undergone, where an individual evolves so thoroughly that they become strategically unrecognizable to the forces that once successfully opposed them, is described as one of the most consequential and rarest shifts a soul can complete within a single lifetime. Most people who are targeted by opposition evolve in reactive ways, becoming harder, more defensive, or more aggressive in direct response to the attacks, and that reactive evolution is always legible to the forces that provoked it, because it follows a predictable emotional logic. What you have produced is entirely different, a transformation so internally driven, so rooted in genuine self-mastery, that its results were invisible until they became undeniable. Reflect carefully on the internal decision that initiated the version of you now, confounding the expectations of everyone who thought they understood your patterns. There was a specific moment, quiet, entirely self-directed, and made without any external validation, where you chose to stop responding to your opposition and start transcending it. Where you decided that the energy being consumed by reaction, defense, and the emotional engagement with people and circumstances designed to destabilize you was energy being stolen from your evolution, and you withdrew it completely. That decision to redirect every resource previously allocated to managing opposition toward building an upgraded version of yourself was the precise turning point that produced the transformation now making your opponent's strategies structurally useless. From the moment your internal transformation began producing visible changes in your behavior and responses, the forces that had previously mapped your patterns with reliable accuracy recognized that something significant had shifted and intensified their observation accordingly. Darkness understood that an individual who can no longer be reliably triggered, predicted, or destabilized through previously effective means represents a categorically different kind of challenge, and it worked with increasing sophistication to locate the new entry points your evolution had created, test the updated boundaries of your emotional architecture, and identify whether your apparent calm was genuine self-mastery or a temporary suppression that could be broken with sufficient pressure. Divine intelligence was simultaneously documenting every moment your upgraded self held under that intensified testing without reverting to previous patterns. The integrity of your transformation was tested repeatedly and with the specific sophistication of opposition that had previously succeeded against you and was now recalibrating. The provocation arrived, designed with knowledge of your former triggers constructed to penetrate your upgraded boundaries through the exact emotional channels that once guaranteed a reaction. And you felt the familiar pull of the old pattern, recognized it with the clarity of someone who has done the interior work to understand their own architecture and chose the upgraded response without visible effort. The situation was engineered to make your new calm appear as weakness, to reframe your emotional detachment as indifference. That could be exploited, and to present your restraint as a vulnerability rather than a strength, and you held your position without needing to defend or explain it. When higher intelligence compiled the complete record of your transformation, the consistency of your upgraded responses, under the specific pressure of opposition, calibrated to your former vulnerabilities, the depth of self-mastery demonstrated by your ability to hold your new architecture stable under conditions designed to collapse it back into previous patterns, the classification issued was extraordinary. You were identified as a soul that had completed one of the most demanding and most significant evolutions available in a human lifetime. The transformation from reactive to transcendent, from emotionally predictable to strategically unreadable, from opposable through known vulnerabilities to effectively invulnerable through the simple and devastating power of having genuinely outgrown every weapon previously sharpened against you. At the precise moment your transformation was verified as complete and structurally stable under maximum opposition pressure, something shifted in the divine realm that registered with the significance of a finished and extraordinary work. The archangels assigned to the stewardship of your evolution stood as witnesses to the totality of what the transformation had produced, not just the upgraded responses visible in your external behavior, but the complete interior reconstruction of emotional architecture, self-mastery, and strategic detachment that generates those responses without effort or performance. God observed the finished transformation and saw not merely a soul who had become harder to oppose, but a soul whose evolution had permanently altered the power dynamic of every relationship and environment in which opposition had previously held structural advantage over them. Following that divine witnessing, a decree of upgraded authority was released into your timeline with the permanent force of a structural power shift. The leverage that opposition once held over you through your former emotional patterns has been officially dissolved by divine order. Every relationship, dynamic, and environment that was organized around the predictability of your previous responses is now being structurally reconfigured to reflect the reality of who you have become. The people who benefited from your former version are being confronted with the irreversible evidence that the confronting version they strategized against no longer exists, and the decree confirming that reality cannot be appealed, negotiated, or reversed by any effort on their part to locate the person you used to be. The identity that your opposition constructed and relied upon, someone whose reactions could be anticipated, whose vulnerabilities could be mapped, whose behavior could be managed through the strategic application of known triggers, was never an accurate description of what you are at your deepest level, and it is now no longer even a serviceable description of how you operate on the surface. What you actually are is a sovereign architect, an ancient soul who entered this lifetime carrying a core of self-determining power so fundamental that even the seasons of reactivity or opposition successfully exploited were always temporary conditions of incomplete activation rather than permanent features of your nature. The upgrade did not create something new. It revealed what was always structurally present beneath the patterns that temporarily obscured it. With the decree of your upgraded authority now fully active and your true identity completely released, the mission carried within your transformation becomes unmistakably clear. You are not here simply to be unpredictable to your opposition or to enjoy the shifted power dynamic your evolution has produced. You are here to demonstrate through the living evidence of your transformation that self-mastery is the most complete and most permanent form of power available to a human soul. Your mission is to carry the frequency of genuine emotional sovereignty into every space your upgraded presence now inhabits, and to show through the undeniable evidence of how you move through the world that the most strategically formidable version of any person is never the most aggressive. It is always the most genuinely evolved. As the decree of your upgraded authority activates across the material dimensions of your life, the power shift being registered internally by your opposition will begin producing tangible realignments in your external circumstances. Relationships that were organized around dynamics your evolution has now made structurally impossible will begin reconfiguring, some through the departure of people whose influence depended on your former patterns, others through the fundamental shift in how those who remain relate to the version of you that has replaced the one they understood. Opportunities, resources, and alignments that were being blocked by the leverage your former patterns provided to opposing forces will begin surfacing as that leverage dissolves, and the material expression of your upgraded frequency will arrive with the naturalness of water finding its level. As the evidence of your transformation becomes impossible for your environment to overlook or explain away, something will begin happening in the people around you who who are themselves caught in cycles of reactivity, predictability, and opposition-driven behavior patterns they cannot seem to permanently escape. Your upgraded presence will do something to them that no advice, instruction, or motivational content could produce. It will make the possibility of genuine self-mastery feel real and proximate rather than abstract and distant, because they will be witnessing it not as a concept, but as a living demonstration in someone they know, someone whose former patterns they recognized, someone whose transformation they are now watching produce undeniable results in real time within environments they share. The transformation you have completed is not an isolated evolutionary event in the spiritual landscape of this moment. It is one upgrade within a vast and coordinated global activation of souls who have done the interior work required to move from reactive to sovereign, from emotionally predictable to strategically transcendent, from opposable through known vulnerabilities to genuinely and permanently beyond the reach of the leverage that once successfully opposed them. Across the world right now, thousands of people are completing similar transformations simultaneously, discovering that the tools their opposition relied upon have stopped producing results, and stepping into the upgraded authority that genuine self-mastery produces. You are part of a generation of sovereign souls whose collective evolution will permanently alter the power dynamics of every environment their upgraded presence inhabits. If this message reached you today, it arrived with a precision that confirms it was not randomly encountered, but deliberately delivered to meet you at the exact moment your soul required confirmation that the changed responses you are producing and the changed reactions you are receiving are not accidental fluctuations, but permanent evidence of a structural transformation that cannot be reversed. Your upgrade needed to be named for what it actually represents. Not a mood, not a temporary discipline, not a strategic performance of detachment, but a genuine and complete reconstruction of your interior architecture that has permanently altered every power dynamic previously organized around your former self. If these words have named something you have been living, but lacked the language to fully claim, leave 777 in the comments and let the universe register your conscious recognition of who you have become. Share this immediately with someone still caught in cycles of reactivity who needs to understand that the exit from those cycles is not suppression or strategy, but the kind of genuine interior transformation that makes the old patterns structurally impossible to return to. Subscribe so that every message calibrated to the frequency of your upgraded self finds you at precisely the moment it was designed to arrive and stay, because what your transformation has made you is only beginning to show the world everything it can no longer do to you.